All right, good Tuesday evening, everyone. It is July 15th on this 6:30, and we are weather alert as we are tracking some strong thunderstorms across the metro area, extending up all the way over towards the Sandhills and portions of the mountains as well. Our chief meteorologist, Brad Panovich, has enjoyed some R&R this week, so currently off. So outside now, I do want to get in on this forecast because we do have some important updates to make. It is dark and stormy over uptown Charlotte, and of course, these thunderstorms are having quite the impact at the Charlotte Douglas Airport. So I do want to actually get to our meteorologist and producer, Lily Aldrich, who does have an update on some of the ground stops that we're seeing.
Yeah, so the Charlotte Douglas Airport's going to be on a ground stop until around 7 o'clock tonight. So they are experiencing delays for around an hour and 7 minutes per what their website's saying right now. But we're tracking storms, making sure everyone's staying safe. That's all for safety reasons. So don't get mad at anybody. It's all going to be okay. We're hanging out, so let's track our storms, Becca.
Yeah, the Charlotte Douglas Airport fortunately has strict protocols and guidelines, and I've sat on the tarmac before when there is thunder and lightning out there, so I imagine not the best for travelers, but you know what? That storm is pushing off to the east, and it, of course, is dark and stormy over towards uptown, but want to show you why we are weather alert. It's going to be for these reasons. Now, until about midnight, the impact is going to be heavy rainfall that could potentially lead to flash flooding, and this is especially apparent in the areas that have already seen significant rainfall from the past 48 to 72 hours. Soils are very saturated, basically creates a waterlog and basically creates flood-prone areas. So if you are out and about or just hanging out at your house, make sure to download that WCNC app. You will get alerts when there are watches and warnings in the area. You can also see the latest on the radar, especially if you do have to venture out. Excessive rainfall impacts for today, you can see it as a medium to low threat in that medium zone that's in the yellow, encompasses Boone, Blowing Rock, Morganton, Taylorsville, all the way down into Lincoln, into the Charlotte area as well. Some of the areas that did see more of that significant rain, but flooding will be a concern for everyone. So getting right to it, and this Doppler radar, you can see this is not widespread. We've got a cluster of thunderstorms north of Charlotte, in Charlotte, and south of Charlotte. So want to get to the one that is causing that ground stop over at the Charlotte Douglas Airport. I will say this has weakened out considerably. This was producing lightning strikes, around 60 lightning strikes close to Gastonia, Belmont, Mount Holly, and into the Charlotte Metro. So this is actually great news as it continues to slowly work its way to the east. Now, number of lightning strikes now about 10 to 14, so hasn't totally weakened out, but that is a good sign when you start to see a lesser number of lightning strikes that this storm is starting to weaken out. As storms weaken out, others pop up. Exactly what we're seeing over towards the northern half of Cleveland County, Double Shoals, Bellwood, Cesar, Duncan's Creek, all the way down into Lattimore. This is mainly all north of the Shelby area, just getting hammered with rain. You can see though it goes from a darker red to a little bit of yellow and oranges, so also indicative of a little bit of weakening with that storm. South of the Charlotte area, got a cluster of widely scattered storms from Rockingham, Cheraw, Ruby, portions of Patrick, all the way down into the southern half of Chesterfield County. Also, Lancaster, starting to see a little bit more action. Heath Springs getting a good downpour there. Now, while we did see a flood advisory issued over towards Rowan County, that was for Salisbury. That was mainly for nuisance flooding, so maybe some low-lying areas or some ponding out on the roadways. But what we are seeing over towards Greensboro is an active flash flood warning. And Greensboro is an area and a location that has just been hammered with rain since the weekend, with, I believe now, this is the third flash flood warning that we have seen since this weekend. So this is pretty significant. 1 to 3 inches of rain has already fallen in and around that location. And we do have a live view, I believe, showing kind of the conditions out there. Yeah, dark skies. You can also see just with how much moisture out there, the air is so saturated. So creating some low-lying clouds with that as well. So that flash flood warning continues until about 9 o'clock over towards the Greensboro area for, of course, additional rain that continues to fall. And this really was our concern going into tonight, is that slow-moving thunderstorms can dump 1 to 3 inches of rain. Of course, that's what we're seeing over towards Greensboro. Thankfully, have not had any huge flooding concerns so far up to date. So much moisture out there. Dew points have been in the lower to middle 70s. That is indicating tropical like air. So that is why we are seeing any thunderstorm that does develops rapidly and is able to dump a lot of rainfall with it. And because of that, also the heat index, it has felt like a sauna all day today. Now a little bit rain cooled where you're seeing the middle 70s. That includes the Charlotte area feeling more like 76, but over towards Statesville feeling like 100 degrees, feeling like 96 over in Lancaster, with actual temperatures mainly in the upper 80s to lower 90s. We only peaked at 91 degrees today, which yesterday afternoon, if you'll remember, hit 98. So while we were cooler this afternoon with the dew points in the 70s, certainly did not feel that way. So we'll carry those rain chances between about a 40 to 50% chance from now all the way through about midnight. After midnight, that's generally when we start to lose that daytime heating. So rain chances will taper off after then. So weather impacts this evening, weather alert for the potential of slow moving downpours that could create some flooding concerns. Tomorrow, we still got storms in the forecast, but overall rain chances is lower. And then also looking ahead at the tropics, we've got our eyes on a particular tropical wave that could produce a tropical storm as we head towards the end of the work week. This live view from Monroe, we've had this wasp nest hanging around over the past couple of days. James, Lily, and I were both looking at it yesterday, and it looks like that little guy is still there. Tomorrow, high temperatures just a little bit warmer than what they were for today. Lower 90s is what we'll do with a mix of sunshine and clouds. Of course, factoring in the humidity, still going to be feeling like the upper 90s. Today marked the 9th consecutive afternoon where we've seen high temperatures 90 degrees or above, still nowhere near that record of 33 days. But you know what? We're on the upward trend. Counting down how many days we've actually had of 90 degrees, we are now up to 29. That includes today. Year to date from last year, about 23. So we're doing a little bit warmer than that. And average per year is around 44, with the most being 88, 1954. Live view outside, some areas still dealing with the heat, humidity, others dealing with those strong thunderstorms out there. We had a couple of strong thunderstorms over our Dallas camera, now have drifted off to the east. Again, that was that downpour that is now impacting the Charlotte area. So today, flooding, lightning, strong winds with a strong thunderstorm, all going to be the expected impacts for today. So I want to go straight to that future cast. Again, you can see a cluster of thunderstorms will continue, scattered activity from now all the way through about midnight. Not going to be necessarily in everyone's backyard, and flooding won't be a concern for everyone, but again, that is what we are on guard for. Tonight, temperatures will fall into the lower 70s, few areas of patchy dense fog. Then by the time we wake up for Wednesday, skies will clear. We should see a good mix of sun and clouds. And once again, more showers and thunderstorms from midday through about midnight. We'll do it all again for Thursday as well. I think the greatest coverage, though, will be up towards the mountains and foothills. So weather impact going into this week. Daily storm chances continue from now all the way into the weekend, with heat really starting to build. We do want to give a quick update on the tropics. The tropics are something, of course, that we are keeping a close eye on. Now, you can see the name of this, Tropical Wave Invest 93L. That is a mouthful. Now, basically, the National Hurricane Center tags it this name as basically a storm of interest when it's watching a storm that could potentially take on tropical characteristics. So this low pressure system was off the eastern coast of Florida earlier today. Now is crossing over Florida. You can see that counterclockwise spin over towards Daytona Beach. Eventually, all those rain and thunderstorms will start to get dumped out into the Gulf, where it does still have that medium chance of tropical cyclone development. As we head into the next 2 to 7 days, I'd say by the time we get into Thursday and Friday, we could definitely see this take on some tropical characteristics. The hurricane hunters will actually be flying in there. Lily, I believe, is that tomorrow or Thursday?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Okay.
So from what I was reading, they should be going in tomorrow.
Okay. So when the hurricane hunters fly into a developing system, that's usually when we get a better idea of what exactly is going on in the storm. So they usually drop what's called a drop sonde in the storm that measures the vertical profile basically of the storm with dew points, temperature, humidity, winds, and we should get a better update of that towards the end of the work week. We'll be bringing us maybe some extra tropical moisture towards the weekend. We do have a weather IQ on hurricane hunters, which we will go to now.
Information about a storm, but how are they even getting inside? They're flying a plane called a WC-130J, like this one. It's a modified version of a C-130 plane that you might see dropping the red stuff on a fire out west. These planes are tough. They can fly for longer periods of time, and they can really take a beating. These airborne science missions are run by the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, which has been flying into storms since 1944. In the cargo section of the plane, there are 2 different pallets of computer systems that take all of the data from the sensors on the plane's exterior and help determine what's going on inside the storm. Now, the hunters also drop this parachute-type sensor called drop sondes, which float through the storm, relaying information about the storm's pressure, wind speed, and direction. That information all comes together, gets processed, and is then shared through the National Hurricane Center for all of us to share with you.
Some great information there, and of course we'll be keeping a close eye on that system. Do want to go through that surface map that we're expecting to see with this low pressure system. So it's basically traveling over the peninsula of Florida, and this is going to be bringing a lot of rainfall, bringing some big flooding impacts potentially from Florida all the way to the Gulf Coast states, also bringing a rip current impact and risks to those areas as well on the shore. Now, we've had 3 named tropical storms so far this season, so the next one officially on the list is Dexter. And while this may not become a strong hurricane as we head towards the end of the work week, that does not mean that we are not going to be seeing impacts from this in the U.S. Of course, the last 2 named storms that we've seen both tropical storms, Barry and Chantal, have done devastating damage, catastrophic flooding over towards the hill country of Texas, and Chantal also created some flooding concerns and flooding deaths in North Carolina as well. So we'll likely see our next named storm over the week ahead. Doppler radar, do you want to do another quick check on what we are seeing storm-wise? Still got that cluster of storms now starting to spark up a little bit over towards Shelby, Lincoln County, over towards Hickory and Maiden as well. Iredell County starting to get a little bit more action, while Mecklenburg County is seeing a lot of a weakening with this storm. Previously, we were in the reds, a ton of lightning. Now, that has just turned into some light rain. So that is actually great news for that ground stop that we had at the Charlotte Douglas Airport. I do know that that was expected to lift around 7 o'clock. It's about 20 minutes from now. But the fact that we're not seeing any lightning with this system is going to be something to celebrate. Up towards the north, a little bit west of Charlotte, you can see those downpours that I was mentioning, some strong thunderstorms over towards northern Cleveland County that did have wind gusts up around 40 miles per hour, as well as pea-sized hail. That has basically dissipated out. Now, still got a couple of strong thunderstorms over towards Rockingham, producing a lot of lightning there. Ruby on the very edge of Union and Wadesboro starting to get some rain. Patrick, McBee, Chesterfield County getting more on that action. Do still have that active flash flood warning over towards Greensboro, but I do want to highlight some of the new areas that we are starting to see some downpours set up. So that is alongside I-40, basically from Hickory to Claremont. Maiden getting hammered. I've seen this downpour over the same area for about 30 to 45 minutes now. And then Iredell County, basically over towards the Lake Norman area from Troutman, alongside I-77 to Statesville, Turtersburg, all the way up towards Eagle Mills. Do want to try and see if I could put this loop on there. So this is a loop from the past couple of hours. So you can see just the nature of these storms. These are pop-up, and they will continue to be an issue over the next couple of hours, again, with that threat and concern for flash flooding. The only flooding that we've seen so far here in North Carolina has really been that ongoing flash flood warning over towards Greensboro, Burlington, extending out all the way into portions of Durham as well, for rain that is 2 to 4 inches of rain has fallen, with more rain that continues to fall. So when we talk about training thunderstorms, I mean, that's a stationary thunderstorm that is slow moving and dumping a lot of rainfall. Now, I do want to get to this lightning map, kind of showing how many lightning strikes that we've had from yesterday to today. So that's around 16,000 that the state of North Carolina has seen from the mountains, metro, extending especially bullseye, I'd say, over towards the Greensboro, Raleigh area that is getting hammered once again with intense rain and thunderstorms. A little bit less as you go up to the coast, but just a reminder for lightning safety: when thunder roars, go indoors. And we did just actually get our 11th confirmed lightning fatality that was actually in New Jersey. Unfortunately, that man who was golfing, which is actually a top there's actually several deaths related to golfing and lightning. Unfortunately, he did succumb to his injuries. Excessive rainfall impacts for today. You can see the majority of that is going to be further up to the mountains, foothills, and portions of the Charlotte metro area. Again, the places that have really seen those saturated soils from the soakers that we've been having. You can see as we approach Wednesday, most of us under nothing. We've got ash over towards Watauga County as well under a low threat, but everywhere else not going to be a concern. Now, a few hit or miss showers or thunderstorms will continue as we end out the work week, but not looking nearly as widespread as what we've been seeing. Heat index values will continue to increase by the time we get in tomorrow with those high temperatures in the lower 90s. It's still going to be feeling like the triple digits. We'll continue that into Thursday, Friday, a little bit closer to heat advisory criteria, which heat advisory criteria is between 105 to 109. So we will be very close to that, unfortunately. 7-day forecast, putting it all together. Charlotte FC does have a match, I believe it's 7:30 tomorrow. I think most locations should be good. Can't rule out an isolated shower or thunderstorm towards the evening hours. Of course, they did see those soakers on Saturday, and they did have a rain delay of up to around 90 minutes, I believe. So hopefully that is not the case going into tomorrow, but we'll keep an eye on that. Hit or miss showers or thunderstorms will continue Thursday, Friday, with a better chance and better coverage for Saturday. But you can see these high temperatures, middle to upper 90s. That is what it's going to be feeling like. And let's see, what do we have next on the list? Okay, Oh,
I'd
good.
actually love to pull us back to that heat. How the heat's rising later this week.
Yes.
I was talking to Brad about I want to say it was last week, and he was talking a lot about like children in heated cars.
Yes.
And we actually have a graphic, I'm pretty sure, talking about how hot car temperatures get and in comparison to the outside temperature, because they rise like exponentially. They rise so quickly, and most, like all deaths for heat related incidents can all be related in terms of cars. Like they can all be avoided. So there is a website called noheatstroke.org, where a guy, I think he's in Texas, actually keeps track of how many children have unfortunately passed away from heated car incidents. So I think we have a weather IQ from Chris, meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, who talks a little bit more in depth about this.
Did you know your car thermometer is wrong? You want to know why? Let's raise that weather IQ. When you get in the car and look at the dash, what's reading the temperature isn't a thermometer. It's actually called a thermistor. The name comes from a combination of words thermal and resistor. It measures temperature based on electrical current changes as heat is added or removed. The problem is where the thermistor is located, right here behind the grill. This leaves it exposed to radiation from the road surface. Also, the engine emits heat where it operates at around 200 degrees. This makes your car temperature appear to be about 10 to over 20 degrees warmer, especially on a hot summer day. Blacktop conducts the most heat, leading to those crazy high car temperature photos. Let's turn on some AC, right? Temperatures actually go down as you're out driving around and will become more accurate as you drive at higher speeds. But once you move back into a traffic jam, temperatures will move back up. This is why the official temperature measured at the airport is measured away from any pavement, because even those digital thermometers you see at banks tend to be hotter with the parking lot nearby. An accurate air temperature is measured above ground in complete darkness, with a radiation shield so sunlight doesn't skew the sensor. So when can you trust your car for temperatures? It's not 100% accurate, but your car is most accurate for temperature at night well after the sun sets and on overcast days. So bottom line, your car thermometer, not accurate. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with another Weather IQ. Stay cool.
Yeah, my car thermometer was saying it was 120 degrees earlier. So I have now transitioned to parking my car in the garage, thankfully. So I do not have to deal with that, Lily.
Well, actually, as I was mentioning earlier, so your car, the temperature, as Chris said, isn't exactly what it is. So even like leaving your groceries in the car afterwards, like can heat stuff up so much quicker than you actually think. So yeah, I know.
You know what? We're in the peak of summertime season, and actually our average high is 91 degrees, and that is our highest average temperature that we see out of the entire year. So thankfully, we will start to be on that downhill trend, especially as we head towards the end of July. That average temperature starts to go down into the upper 80s, and then eventually towards August, that's when we start to get into the last month of summer, and it starts to feel a little bit more comfortable in the 80s. And then, of course, fall. Someone mentioned fall to me yesterday, and I think I got chills from it because it has been a hot summer. And in fact, meteorologist Chris Mulcahy did dig up a stat that we were in the top 8 warmest Julys so far at this point. And I think with temperatures in the 90s and well above average temperatures as we head into this week will only help contribute to that. Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about something that we have been looking at. And if you've been wondering in the summer why you've been seeing fog when you step out in the morning in the summertime, well, it's something called radiational fog, and it happens when you have wet soils, moist soils from rain the day before. When you have wet soils, it actually raises up the dew point, and when the temperature cools down to the dew point, that's when the air becomes saturated. So a lot of times when we have clear skies, light winds, that is when we've got a little bit of fog developing. So you'll notice as we go into futurecast visibility, by 6 a.m. tomorrow, there are a lot of areas that could be reduced to anywhere from 2 to 3 miles. So when we say patchy dense fog is possible, in the overnight hours, this is what we're talking about. Not completely widespread, but a few areas could be dense, lower than anywhere from 2 to 3 miles. So when we see this on a morning commute, that can be especially problematic, but it's more so when we see it reduced to around a quarter mile or less. And that is also sometimes when we get those advisories issued as well. So do have a good explainer for this. Again, it's called radiation fog, and there are actually several types of fog, but the ingredients needed, well, you need clear skies, calm winds, you don't want a lot of mixing in the atmosphere and down towards the surface, and then once that temperature cools down to the dew point, which if you got rain before, wet soils, dew point gets raised just a little bit. So also you want to use low beams in fog as well, so that's just a good reminder there, especially as we have fog in the forecast for tomorrow morning. Do want to also check in on the radar real quick. Is the Charlotte Douglas Airport still on that delay at the moment, ground stop, I should say?
They're on it until around 7 o'clock tonight, yes.
Okay, so the Charlotte Douglas Airport still has that ground stop. Thankfully, look at that lightning that has been reduced across the Mecklenburg area. So good news for travelers. That being said, though, as some storms dissipate and lose their strength, others really do pop up. And we've mainly seen that action north of the metro now. Dark reds indicating some really intense rain falling between Bellwood, Lincoln County, all the way up towards Hickory, Catawba, Statesville, Cleveland, all the way up into northern Iredell County as well. Now, where I'm probably seeing the most action is going to be up over towards Iredell County. We're starting to get closer to the 7 o'clock hour, so that means a little bit less traffic on the roadways, rush hour traffic coming to an end. That being said, though, this still is a pretty busy spot alongside I-77, so just be aware of just really heavy rainfall, slow moving. I'm actually going to go ahead and put a loop on this. You can see how it develops in about half hour ago, and it's kind of just stayed in the same area, just grown in strength. Those are going to be the concerns as we head into tonight as well. So looking at a few other downpours, still got some rain over towards the Charlotte area. No lightning now within that system. Mount Holly, Belmont, Charlotte area previously did have up to around 14 lightning strikes by the time we checked in about 10 minutes ago. So a lot of weakening there, and that's good news. Still got some of those downpours again over towards Cleveland County. Most of that activity starting to cease out, but cluster of thunderstorms continues from portions of Union County pushing out of Chesterfield, but a few locations in southern Chesterfield still getting in on some of those downpours as well. And then Lancaster all the way up towards portions of Wadesboro and Rockingham also. Now we've seen a couple of strong thunderstorms containing 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, as well as some small-sized hail from pea size to about $50, but really the only flooding that we have seen other than nuisance flooding over towards Rowan and Salisbury is over towards Greensboro. So active, ongoing flash flood warning. When you get a flash flood warning to your phone, this means that flooding is happening now. It is not a watch. It means that flooding is imminent. So some ponding out on the roadways definitely going to be a possibility, and do have to watch out for any high water spots along rivers, creeks. When the soil becomes so saturated just because they've had days and days of rain, it does act like a water log and becomes a little bit easier for the water to just settle up above the ground, and then it gets swept into rivers, creeks, streams, and of course some of the low-lying areas. So just be on guard for that. Again, that is outside of the viewing area, but that is what our concern was for this evening, which is why we did have that weather alert. Checking in on some of the temperatures out there. Dew points have been really in the 70s pretty much all day, exactly what we're seeing. So it has felt very oppressive and miserable with those temperatures. A little bit rain cold, but still 97, feeling like in Rock Hill, feeling like 96 in Lancaster, 95 in Statesville, and the upper 70s over in the Charlotte area. So got some rain cool there, but it certainly feels sticky out there with current temperatures outside right now. We are up to 77 here in Charlotte, 88 in Chester, 90 over in Lancaster, and 84 over in Cheraw. So as a reminder, just kind of like typical summer-like weather, we'll see those scattered showers and thunderstorms until about midnight tonight. Once we lose the daytime heating, storms will lose their fuel, and we should see those rain chances taper off pretty quickly. So that's going to be the good news. Weather impacts, still weather alert for the rest of tonight. Tomorrow, still going to have storms, but overall a lower chance. And then looking ahead, of course, to that tropical activity that we are expecting. Do we have any live views that we want to show, we want to end out with?
Well, our bee friend is still there.
Yes, our bee friend. Yes. We also, Lily and I just learned this. We have windshield wipers on our cameras. And they did not like the windshield wipers that that James used yesterday, which is controlled by a button. We do have a nice view, nice sunset view of the clouds and the storms that we've been seeing. This is from our Dallas camera, courtesy of Mr. Sparky over towards northern Gaston County. It really does give the bird's eye view, sitting so far up in the atmosphere. So we'll end with this tonight. Again, we are staying weather alert for the potential of localized flooding. So far, so good here in our area, but we will continue to keep you updated.